This is Doug DeMuro, and today I'm going to tell you how I would replicate my fantasy car garage, the crazy cars that I currently own and love, with just $150,000. That's a lot of money, but it's a lot less money than my Carrera GT and my Countach. However, I think you could get very similar thrills to my garage for 150 grand. Allow me to explain. Today's video is sponsored by Cars and Bids, which is my online car auction website for modern enthusiast cars. So far, Cars and Bids has sold almost $500 million worth of cars. All sorts of special and cool stuff like this, and this, and this, and this. If you're looking to sell your enthusiast car, reach a vast audience at carsandbids.com. Okay, so how would I replicate my garage for 150 grand? This is kind of an odd topic, but I was thinking to myself as the stock market was declining the other day fairly considerably, I was thinking to myself, if I had to sell it all and just replace every car's experience, but for a lot less money, what would I do? And I came up with good replacements for all of my cars for a lot less money. So the cars I have a Ford GT, which I consider to be kind of the most drivable, exciting, usable exotic car. I have the Lamborghini Countach, which is the, oh my God, this is insane, look at that car. I have the Carrera GT, which is kind of the best driver's car, the best, most incredible to drive. And then I have a convertible G-Wagon, which is like my everyday, if I want to have fun in a crazy, insane vehicle, but it's still kind of practical car. You add all those up, and you're into the millions of dollars. and so if you wanted to downsize that fleet, but still have a car that meets all of those needs, what would you get? That was what I was thinking. Like if I had to panic sell them all, but I still wanted some cool cars that had the same basic ideas, what would you get? And so for $150,000, I put together kind of the same garage, just with a lot less of the ego involved. So here's what it is. To replace the Ford GT as like the drivable, fun, enjoyable sports car that I use all the time, I would get an ND Mazda Miata, which is the current generation Miata. Now, it doesn't have the presence or the panache or the look at me wow factor as the Ford GT, but that's not how I use my Ford GT. I have other wow cars. The Ford GT I really use as my sports car, my daily sports car. If I have somewhere to be and it's sunny and I don't have to take people, I pretty much always drive my Ford GT. It's at like 43,000 miles now, which is among the highest of all the Ford GTs. I've had it for 6 years. I personally have put 12,000 miles on it. I use it a lot. I drive it a lot. I enjoy it a lot. And so even though an ND Miata wouldn't necessarily give me the same like, whoa, this is insane factor, it still has the same purpose, which is like the usable sports car. If I wanted a sports car in my garage that I was using frequently, that's the one. It's a blast to drive. It's super fun, super exciting. And I'm not saying it gives me a Ford GT's worth of thrills, but in this downsized garage, it provides a pretty similar experience for a lot less money. It's a great shifter, great handling, great steering, nice to look at, very cool car, and it's a truly engaging and exciting and incredible sports car that you really could drive every day if you wanted to. And so the ND Miata would fit my needs, and I can pick one up for around 20 grand. In fact, you can pick up a used ND Miata for like 16, but those are early kind of ratty ones, not really what you're looking for. For 20 grand, you can get like a really decent, okay, early, but decent miles ND Miata. So that would be my Ford GT replacement. An ND Miata. It doesn't seem right to say it, but you'd be surprised at how those two cars, I think, would really fulfill the same purpose, at least in my life. So how do you replace the Lamborghini Countach in a $150,000 total price garage, especially because I already spent 20 grand on the Miata? The answer is you buy an original Dodge Viper. The original Viper can be purchased for, I've written down $35,000, and we've certainly sold several on Cars and Bids at around that price point. Some even into the high $20,000 range, some as high as like 40 to 45, but 35 grand would get you one. And the original Viper is a wow car. And just like the Countach, it is not a practical car. It's not one that you would drive every day. It's not one that you would drive frequently. It's not one that you would take to go grocery shopping or pick up supplies for your house. It is the car that you would take out when you want to have a good time on a sunny day and you want to brighten up other people's days because it's crazy and you'd want people to look at you and point and you'd want to have a crazy old school manual V10 experience. That's when you drive the Viper. And frankly, that's when you drive the Countach. Now, not as many people would point at you. You wouldn't have the same sound as the carbureted Italian V12, but it would still do a lot of what I do with my Countach, just like that ND Miata does a lot of what I do with my Ford GT. It would still provide a pretty damn exciting experience where you're really having a good time in sort of a ridiculous vehicle that gets a lot of attention, that is very exotic, and in this case, is a lot less money. And I think the original Viper is crazy undervalued, but also I think it really kind of does the job for around $35,000. And I think that car would be a lot of fun and really enjoyable to drive on the rare bases that like I drive my Countach. I think it would really leave you with two feelings every time you get out. Number one, a smile on your face, and number two, the thought that you never want to drive that car again. That's how I feel every time I drive the Countach. That was great, and I'm also really glad it's over. And I think that's the Viper. So then the next question is, well, how do you replace a Carrera GT in this garage? Especially because now I've already spent $55,000 between the Viper and the Miata. So now 55 grand's gone. I only have $95,000 left, and I still have to replace two cars, the G-Wagon convertible and the Carrera GT. So how do I replace the Carrera GT? To me, this is actually the car that started this whole thought. And the answer came to me immediately. You'd get an Acura NSX. And the reason you get an NSX is because the Carrera GT is the ultimate driver's car from a steering, handling, drivability perspective. It is an unbelievable treat and joy to drive. Perfectly balanced, perfectly set up, a truly fantastic masterpiece of a driver's car. And you know what? So is the NSX. And it's not just that. They're both mid-engined. They're both pretty robust. The Carrera GT is actually surprisingly reliable, except for the issues that it has, but that's kind of true of the NSX. But the real benefit here, the real similarity, in addition to the driving experience, I think, is they both fly under the radar. I drive my Carrera GT everywhere. Nobody has any idea what it is. Nobody notices it. Nobody pays attention to it. Nobody sees it. And in my experience, the NSX is fairly similar. Car enthusiasts get very excited when I drive the Carrera GT, more than my other cars. But regular people don't. And that's also true of the NSX. In my experience, driving them around, most people don't really care. But car enthusiasts really freak out. And I think that the NSX has that same kind of vibe as the Carrera GT, which is, this is for you. This is a driver's car for you, the driver, the owner. It is not for everybody else. The Countach is the car that you drive around and you're putting on a show. The Carrera GT is the car that you drive around and the show is all in the driver's seat. To me, that's what the NSX is, and that's what the Carrera GT is. Now, I can buy an NSX, a used NSX, an early one for about $65,000. They're getting harder to find at that number, but they're out there, miled up, and maybe a couple of months, maybe a bad Carfax, but they're out there. And that's what I would get if I was trying to fit into this price point. The NSX is just such a damn good car to drive. And it really kind of has sort of a baby Carrera GT feel to it in the sense that it really is not flashy, not over the top, not overt, but designed to please one person, the driver. So now I've gotten myself into a little pickle here because I've spent $120,000 of my $150,000 budget, but I still have to replace my G500 Cabriolet. So how do I do that? And the answer is, I thought about it long and hard, and the answer is what I would get for the fourth car is a regular G500. A regular four-door SUV G500. When you think about it, it solves the problem about as well. You have seats for everybody, just like my Cabriolet. You have off-road capability. You have kind of a special car, because those early G-Wagons, they didn't make a lot of them, and not a lot have survived. And when I see an early, like 02 to 05 G-Wagon now, I'm like, wow, that's a pretty cool car that has lasted this long. It's like nice and desirable. Can do anything, go anywhere. They're pretty reliable and robust, the early ones are. And so I think that would do it. And you can pick up an early G-Wagon, no problem, an early US market G500 for around $30,000, which puts me right at my $150,000 price cap. And it's not as cool as the G500 Cabriolet, there's no question about that, but it's not that far off. And for people who know what they're looking at, I think an early G-Wagon is like a, well, that's cool. You know, you used to look at a G-Wagon and think, okay, that's an annoying celebrity loser person who just knew money, spent that on a car. And you still think that about new G-Wagons, right? But the old one, you really don't feel that way anymore. Like, it's starting to kind of get into this classic old school status, especially when you get behind the wheel. And obviously the G500 would have some other benefits that my Cabriolet doesn't, like full-size interior, you know, four doors and a bigger cargo area, and it's not a convertible. There are some benefits there, but that's it. That's what I would do. I could scale down my garage to a $150,000 garage, sell everything, and just live a miserly life without having to have all these expensive cars. It would be kind of insane to scale down to that level, considering that I really love my cars, but I do think that this garage would actually bring not 90% of the joy, but like maybe 75% of the joy for like 10% of the money. There's like to that. And it makes it kind of interesting to think about, at least as a thought exercise, like, could you do this? And I think that I could. And I think that these cars are all fairly reasonable replacements to the cars that I own. So there you go. That is my dream garage scaled down to a much more reasonable, although still expensive price point, in case you were wondering how I would replace my special cars with more accessible ones.